pharmaceutical companies that make these vaccines that make it onto the schedule are, protected from liability. There's a liability shield for them, as a purely capitalistic move. If I could create a product and not have any liability, I would drive a truck through that.
Yes, it is true that vaccine manufacturers are protected from liability, but it doesn't mean that they're protected 100%, and it doesn't mean that they are free from regulation or free from oversight. This is all because of a program created in 1986 called the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. And while that program may not be perfect, you need to think of it as a risk management policy, not a get out of jail free card for vaccine manufacturers. Vaccine manufacturers absolutely can still be held liable when there are issues with manufacturing, like manufacturing defects, for fraud, failure to follow FDA standards, willful misconduct. And let's not forget, they are still regulated. This is not like some blanket like, oh, go do whatever the hell you want. We don't even care. We're not even going to check to make sure that what you're doing is safe. No, of course not. That would be ridiculous. And if you don't believe me, just stop and think. If it was true that pharmaceutical companies were 100% consequence free from anything going wrong with vaccines, then you would never see any vaccines withdrawn from the market. But we have. For example, in 1998, the first rotavirus vaccine, it was called RotaShield, was approved for use in the US, and in less than a year, it was withdrawn from the market. Why was it withdrawn? Because the surveillance systems that we have in place to make sure that vaccines are in fact safe did detect an increase in the risk of intussusception. It was very rare, but it was decided, you know what, we need to take this off the market. This happens in other parts of the world as well. 2009 in Europe, there was an H1N1 flu epidemic, and there was a vaccine that was given for that.
I can't remember the name. I think Pandemrix or something like that.
Anyway, with that particular vaccine, they noticed with their surveillance systems that there was an increased risk of narcolepsy. The authorization for that vaccine was not renewed, and countries started removing it from their recommendations. And when we learn more about vaccines, when they are rolled out to a larger population, we do sometimes update the indications or include certain warnings about that particular product. The really big example that probably everybody has heard of at this point is the mRNA COVID vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna. The initial authorization didn't mention anything about myocarditis, pericarditis, because they hadn't seen that signal yet. But once that was rolled out to more people and the signal became apparent, they added warnings about that. Sometimes we reformulate vaccines to make them safer or to make them even more effective. For example, many years ago, the pertussis vaccine was a whole cell vaccine. There were more side effects, things like fever and local reactions where the shot was administered. And eventually, we replaced that with the acellular pertussis vaccine, which had fewer side effects, but was still effective. And there's lots of other examples too, but the point is that the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program does not mean that these vaccine manufacturers just get to run rampant and free and make whatever they want, put out whatever they want. Nobody's watching it. Nobody's regulating it. That could not be further from the truth. There is accountability. There is oversight. There are consequences. Hope that helps. This was Holly. Talk more about this later. Bye.